Hey, just want to say welcome to everybody. Thanks for being a part of our leadership community here at Life and Leadership with David Gadberry. It's a podcast that we just started. We're so excited about it, and so I just want to encourage you to just jump right in, be a part. If you want to be a part of our community, the best way to do that is to go to iTunes or to YouTube, and you can subscribe to either one of those, and this podcast will come directly to you. And we'd love to hear any questions that you have. You can ask those questions at connect at gadberry.org, and those will come directly to us, and we'll try to answer those questions during podcast. And so right now, I just want to share with you that what we're about in Life and Leadership podcast is really, to be honest, it's about a lot of times we look at leadership in a vacuum. And we say, take these principles. If you just apply these to your life, it'll all work. And we give, a lot of times, leadership teachers and trainers will give very little context. And leadership doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in real life, and real life is messy, and there are goods, there are bads, there are ups, there are downs. And so that's what this podcast is about, is literally looking at leadership, how it affects our life in real life, real-time setting. And so every guest that we have, it's going to come from that perspective. Every question that we answer, we're going to try to come from that perspective. Teachings that we're doing, it's going to come from that perspective. So right now we're kind of in a series called Healthy Leadership. And so healthy leadership, all leadership that you see that is successful is not necessarily healthy. And so we're talking about the different characteristics. We have about 10 characteristics of what a healthy leader looks like. Today, we want to talk about healthy leadership is about integrity. So one of the greatest characteristics of healthy leadership that's healthy, that has the right culture, that is doing the right thing, that kind of leadership is just always is about integrity. And sometimes we get confused about what the word integrity means. When we think of integrity, we think of honesty, and that is a part of integrity. But the literal word integrity means complete. It means to not be in parts, but to be whole. And so a lot of times when we can be in pursuit of success with our lives, but we are giving away parts of ourselves as we do it, and we end up with mistakes being made and shortcuts being taken and dishonesty happening, and all because we are lacking in integrity. There's this passage in Job, and I'm a man of faith, and I'm a pastor, and I'm a Christian, and so if you're a secular person, you're a business person, you're just trying to glean from leadership principles, it's okay. These go across the board, but I got to be who I am. And so there's a place in Job where Job has just suffered all this tragedy in his life. Kids lost, all of his cattle gone, his homes are destroyed. He had been extremely wealthy and literally overnight lost everything. And he's sitting in a heap at a campfire type situation and picking at boils that he had, scraping at boils that he had gotten as a result of this attack on his life. And his wife asks an interesting question. She wanted him to just curse God and die. Let's just get this over with. And she asked him, will you retain your integrity? And so the idea of integrity and health when it comes to leadership is about in the pressure moments. It's not in the easy moments that you find out if someone's filled with integrity. It's in the hard moments. It's in the difficult moments. It's in the circumstances when you're facing pressures that are really barreling down on you. And what you do then is what really is in you. A lot of times people will say things like pressure makes the man. And the truth is that's not accurate at all. What is accurate is pressure reveals the man. That's accurate. So integrity is this thing that resides on the inside of us that says, I'm going to be complete, I'm going to be whole, I'm going to be credible. Because if you're a leader, no one's following you unless you have credibility. And the only way you have credibility is if you have the health of integrity in your life. So today we have a fantastic guest who is a great friend of mine, and I'm so excited that he's with us today, and he is a man of integrity, and that's one of the things I really appreciate about him. And I'm just going to ask him all kinds of questions today about real leadership in real life. So we're so glad to have Coach Blake Bryant with us today. And I appreciate you, Blake, for a lot of reasons. Our friendship, most importantly, but just in kind of researching some things about your life and things you've done, and then just knowing you, there's just a lot of things that I admire and respect. And one of those things is integrity. And as I follow just the way you coach, the way you lead, not just the players on your team, but the way you lead the staff, your coaching staff. Such great guys, all of them formidable coaches themselves, and they follow you succinctly. And the reason is, I believe, one of the reasons is integrity. Your words line up with your actions. And so today I just want to just ask you some questions and just let our audience get to know you a little bit, and kind of let's just dialogue back and forth and just talk about what it means to really lead in the context of real life, because it's not, real life is different. Right. We can say, it's funny, I run into young people all the time that really want to be leaders, and everything in their life at this point, nothing wrong with it, but everything in their life at this point is theoretical. Right. They know all the principles and they know all what you're supposed to do, but they haven't really faced how to apply those things in the context. So I want to take you back just a little bit. So as I understand it, you've been married almost 30 years, or
30 years.
Yes, it's 30 years.
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
It's good that you know that.
Amen.
Holly is very happy that you know that. So, and you guys started out. You met Holly in college?
Yes, I did. I transferred from the University of Texas, where I played, and went to Tarleton State to play. And in that transition, when I was at Texas, I was probably doing some things I didn't need to do. And I can remember one night out running in the middle of the night, about 2 in the morning, and praying to God and praying and saying, God, I know I'm not the person that I need to be, and I need to make some changes. And so God spoke to me that night, and he just said, I'll make those changes, Blake, but you're going to have to step up and do some things yourself. And lo and behold, the next day, a coach from Tarleton called me out of the blue. Yeah. Nobody knew about my prayer but me and God. Yeah. And asked me if I wanted to come play there. Went there. I straightened up some things in my life that I needed to straighten up, and God started blessing me the right way, and that's how I met Holly.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I have a similar story with my wife, Janae. I met her in high school, though. Right. And you think back on things like that, and you see God orchestrating your path, and it's pretty amazing to acknowledge that and to know that. So you guys got married when you were at Tarleton?
Yes, got married at Tarleton, and I was a graduate assistant there. I played there, and then GA, which means I coached receivers, and Holly was still going to school, and I had to finish up some courses, and so that's where we started our lives.
Okay, that's good. So your dad was a coach, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you grew up that way.
Right.
We have such similar backgrounds because my dad was a pastor as well. So, and it's funny, as I've gotten more involved with you guys, the life of a pastor and the life of a coach are very similar.
They really are.
I mean, really similar. Yeah. In the movement of your life, the dealing with people, the being in the having people looking at you, watching you all the time, and not just you, but your family. Right. And it's just a very interesting, a lot of similarities in that. So you have 2 kids, Bill and Bailey. Right. And Bill how old is Bill now?
Bill is 27 years old, and he's a welder here in town, and he's married to a beautiful girl, Jill, who's a school teacher. Yeah. And then I have my daughter, Bailey, who just got married, and her and her husband, Adam, who runs a bank in Lamesa, and she's a school teacher as well. So, I wasn't smart enough to get Bailey to go do something else. She joined in with her dad. Just wonderful kids. I just love them to death.
Yeah. Yeah. You do have good kids. They're both really great kids, and just they have a lot of respect for you. And she was at the game Friday night, and she felt for you.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She lives and dies it just like her dad
yeah,
does.
yeah, yeah. I was reading an article that Holly, it was something from a realtor's perspective, but she was talking about, she did an interview, I guess, with somebody about being a coach's wife. And
Right.
it was very interesting how she talked about, I mean, good, bad, sick, well, we were at the games. That's what we did. That's who we are. It was just such an interesting dynamic. Things I know about you. I know you're extremely competitive.
Right.
You're, and I like that about you. There's a difference between a negative competition and a positive competition. And I like it that you're competitive, but you do it in the right way. There's no doubt you love football. It's in your blood. What position did you play when you were playing football?
In high school, I was a quarterback and a safety. And then when I got to college, I played receiver.
Okay.
And so those three positions is what I played.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Now, the one I loved was defensive back. I love playing defense, but my dad wanted me to play quarterback too, and I needed to, but I love just being on that side of the field. You just kind of free yourself up and go play and get after it.
That's how I played. I played defense, and I really didn't care about offense.
Right.
I was like, okay, get hit or hit. I was more of like I want to hit.
Absolutely. I'm with you, dude.
So, something we've talked about a lot and really pertains to real life leadership and something I appreciate about you, because this is a consistent. A lot of guys say a lot of things, but if you're like you and I are close to the same age, and so you get our age and you start thinking about real things, and there's a lot of people that talk. But I can't remember who I saw a quote the other day, and I can't remember who the person who said it was, some historic figure. I can't remember right now, but it was, I've stopped listening to what people say and just watch what they do.
Right.
And there's a lot of truth to that.
Right.
And so one of the things I respect about you is what your purpose in being a coach really is about. You definitely want to win. There's no doubt about that, and you are a winner. I think you're overall. You've been at Canyon for 20 years now.
Right.
You're in your 20th year.
Right.
I think your overall win-loss record is like 146 to 79. Right. I mean, you're a winning coach.
Right.
You love to win. There's nothing wrong with winning.
Absolutely.
But you come at it from a different perspective, and that's what I appreciate, because I think when you teach people the fundamentals and you lead people in the right way, winning is something that will happen.
Right.
There's going to be losses, but winning will happen if you work on what's important.
Right.
And what you've said to me over and over again is what you're trying to do is you're not just trying to build good players, good football players, but you're trying to build good men.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that and why that's so important to you.
Well, I think first and fundamentally, before you even start the leadership stuff with other people, is you've got to have your core values, and your core values, mine have probably changed throughout the years, and as a leader and being in a spotlight, and then when you finally hone in on what's really important, it starts with yourself. And so what's really important to me is I've got to be in line with God and His expectations for me. I've got to be a great husband. And lead Holly in the right direction, and be there for her. And then I need to be a great father. And I line those things out first, because if you're not doing that, nobody's going to listen to you as a leader, and in any other area. And so it starts with you. It starts with your fundamental core values and handling that first. And that sounds, that's a 30-second bite right there, but it's complicated. And you know that, living that, it is.
Yeah, it's easy to say. It's not as easy to do.
Right.
Yeah.
But as far as, taking that and putting it into our athletic program, I can remember a time where I believe we'd gone through a 3-year cycle, and 3 or 4, and we were 42-4 or something like that. And we were winning and winning big.
Yeah.
And I was not satisfied. There was something missing inside, and I thought,
Yeah.
what's missing inside is, yeah, we're winning and we're doing great things, but am I really, and me and my staff really impacting the kids in a manner that we're just going to send them out in this community and they're going to be great young men?
Yeah.
And I had to relook at some things, and it's not that we were doing things wrong, but I thought the winning was above raising them the right way. So we kind of reconfigured some things, prayed about some things, and decided that we're going to make sure that we put those values first in our program.
Right.
In order to do that, you've got to surround yourself with really good people.
Yeah.
And if you've been around my staff a lot, David,
Yeah.
you've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, everything
Yeah.
about us.
Yeah.
But when we hire people, and I make it really clear in interviews how we're going to treat our wives and how we're going to treat our kids and how we're going to represent those folks in front of our kids at our homes and things like that, because I want us to model what a good father looks like. I want us to model what a good husband looks like. And then I want to be around really positive people that want to make a difference in kids' lives.
Yeah.
And those 3 core values we have on our staff, I believe with all my heart. But then after that, I want people with different personalities around us.
Yeah.
The core values are what you have to have, and you
Yeah.
just can't coach with us. You would be so uncomfortable around us if you didn't have those.
Right.
And then, like I said, surround yourself with free thinkers, and don't just not just like people like you, but
Right.
different types of people that can touch different types of kids' lives.
Yeah, that's great. When you talk about that, I can hear and sense the deep conviction of that. That's not. This isn't like we came up with a little mission statement or we have a little organizational chart or this is deep in you. And everybody listening to us or watching this does not necessarily have the benefit that I do of seeing the inside of this and how this really works. And I'm going to talk a little bit or ask you some questions about that in just a moment. But being a teacher, coach, pastor, leader, especially to the young generation right now, is a whole different proposition. And do you think that part of the reason that you feel like that is you have to have things this way is because of the way things are with kids nowadays or with young people nowadays?
I do, David, I do, but I think it's probably 20 years ago when I started coaching here. It was there were different issues, but there's always issues.
There's always, yeah.
But I do think that David, me and you've talked about this before. Men in this world need to step up and do the right things and be good examples for kids out there, because we have a major issue in the United States where we're broken families. Yeah. And somehow we've got to start modeling things in the right way so that kids understand how important it is of what we just talked about. And so, I think it's paramount that we have the courage to talk about the things that, David, that you come talk to my kids about all the time, and work on that with our kids, because if you went down the list of my varsity roster, there's so many broken families. And those kids are looking for guidance from somebody. And I think that we've got to surround them with the right type of men so that they're getting the values, that they can go out and use and their families can benefit from one day.
Right. So this is, truthfully, this is what when we talk about life and leadership, this is what we're talking about, because it's easy to say, you need to have a set of values. It's easy to say you need to come up with a vision statement. And these are all kind of principles that are leadership principles. But when you think about the context, you say something all the time that I really appreciate. You say that every one of these boys has a story and some would shock you. Yeah. And it's really true. And it's always been that way. It's not like that trouble and problems and issues are new. Right. But there is an intensity around young people now in our culture that living out, I'm just saying this to our audience, living out those visions, like literally modeling that, like being so serious, like you were when you said that a minute ago, you will be this way if you're going to be around us. And I think you said something about culture too. If you establish the right culture in your organization, then people who don't have those same sets of values, even though they might be free thinkers and different personalities, if they can't align with those values, they will not be comfortable and they won't fit in your organization. And that's the way to develop culture, is just to be so persistent and clear about this is who we are, that it creates that dynamic, which that's real leadership in real life scenarios. And I can just tell you from experience, I'm watching it, that there's a lot of boys, young men, that count on the consistency of that.
Right.
And they watch you guys as a coaching team.
Sure.
They watch to see if this is really how you are. And it's interesting to me because, even when young people don't act like it, they really need that.
Yes, they do.
And that, to them, that means I care.
Right.
You might be establishing parameters for them. You might be calling them out. You might be saying, "Hey, you need to straighten your act up," or "Hey, listen, I heard about this. You're not living for the team. You're living for yourself. What's going on here?" And in that context, they might shrug. They might act like they don't want to hear that, or "Man, why are you getting on me?" But the truth is, all they really are hearing is, "You love me. You love me. You love me." And I remember I used to have friends that would always want to come over to my house when I was a teenager. And I'm like, "Man, let's not go to my house. My house rules. And
Exactly.
My mom and dad want, But at my house, dinner was on the table at this time. You were expected to be in at this time.
Right.
You were expected to do this and do that." And to my friends, that said, I literally had a friend tell me one time, I said, "Man, why you always want to come over to my house? Let's just stay at your house. We can do whatever we want."
Right.
And he said, "Because your parents care."
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
And I mean, think about that. A young person having enough insight to go.
Yes.
And ever since then, I mean, I wasn't even right then.
Right.
But ever since then, it's changed my thinking that a lot of times what we perceive to be, especially parents, when I'm wanting to be more of a friend to my kids, and I'm wanting to be more that good guy with my kids, instead of saying, "Hey, listen, you're drawing outside the lines here.
No doubt.
That's going to hurt you."
Right.
I always have to remember what I'm saying to them, what they're hearing,
Right.
even though they may not act like they're hearing, is "I love you."
Exactly.
And that is something. Now I'm going to say something. I don't know if this will make you uncomfortable. I hope it doesn't. But that is something that is prevalent on your team.
Right.
Love.
Right.
Like genuine. I care for you. I think of you above. And here's where I first acknowledged that, or where I first identified that. It may sound weird to people, and it may just be a routine and a ritual that you guys do. I don't know. But first time I saw it, I was so impressed.
Right.
There's a time before the game where all the coaches are together and all the players are together. We've already done the thing on the field. We've come back, and now we're getting prepared to go out for the game. And the coaches that are going to be up in the crow's nest watching the game from there, helping to call plays, all that kind of stuff, are about to leave and go to the crow's nest, and then the guys who are going to be on the field are there. And all of a sudden, they start hugging each other, and they hit each other on the butt and say, "I love you, man. Have a good game. You're going to be great tonight."
Absolutely.
First time I saw that, I was so moved by that. I'm not going to say I did, but I may have teared up a little bit, because I thought, that's not normal.
Right.
These guys were not doing this to kids. They were doing this to each other. "You're going to be great tonight.
Yeah.
You're going to coach awesome tonight. I love you, man."
Right.
How did you do that?
Well, none of the stuff that's happening I did, but you know what I mean. But I will say this: that we make it a point. First, we do love each other. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
That's very genuine. It's not
Yeah.
made up, and we feel that way about each other.
Right.
It
It's
goes way
obvious.
beyond just we coach on a staff together. We're family.
Yeah.
And we feel strongly about each other.
Right.
And the other thing is, David, is kids need to hear men express their feelings and their emotions in a proper way. And I don't think young men hear that enough.
Right.
And so the first time you look a kid in the eye and say, so-and-so, I love you to death.
Yeah.
Because I love you, this is what we're going to do. They kind of start moving around in their chair like that and everything. But, as they've been in our program, they understand that we coach them hard, that we expect a lot out of them, that we're going to praise them, we're going to punish them, and it all comes from the context of love. And that's because we care about you. And I say to them all the time, "Hey, dude, we could make up stuff and lie to you and pour sugar on you all the time, but people that love you tell you the truth.
Right.
They do it the right way.
Right.
But they tell you the truth. And that's what adults do. True adults do.
Yeah.
If they really, really love you.
Yeah. It's mature.
Yeah.
That's maturity.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want that, and they handle things in an immature way, but that's such a lesson. I think that's interesting that you say that, because I think a lot of times we say kids need to hear us say to them we love them. But what is the impact of a kid, a young man, watching another, the guys on your staff are tough guys.
Yeah.
They're men's men.
Yeah, they are.
But to watch them love each other, defer to one another, work things out together.
Yeah.
That is a major mark on a kid's life, I would think. So let me just ask you a few questions that we might be able to just go through quickly, and then we'll end with maybe a little deeper thought. So if I was just to ask you, what does coaching, the concept of coaching, mean to you? What does that mean?
It to me, it just means trying to make a difference in a kid's life, and doing it by how you carry yourself, how you act, how you coach, the type of people you surround those kids with, and then being very consistent in that.
Yeah.
I want, as the leader of our program, for them, people think I'm a flat line, but what I'm trying to do is just be very consistent with those kids, where that they know that there's somebody, the head coach, the guy in charge, is somebody that they can count on being this certain way, all the time. So that, and it brings comfort to kids in this day and time.
Yeah. Yeah. You tell them a lot. Well, every time we're about to go out and play, you say, in a game, just like life, there's a lot of ups and there's a lot of downs. And when we have ups, we want to celebrate, but we don't want to get carried away. When we have downs, we may be disappointed, but we're not going to stay there. We're going to come. We want to be right here.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I think that makes such a good connection, not just in the sense of the game, but in life.
Yes.
Because they're going to relate that
Yep.
to what's going on in their world.
Yep. And David, here's the deal with that too: is just, as husbands and leaders of our family, one day you're going to look up, and with 2 weeks to go, there ain't a penny in your account. Or somebody's sick, or something's not going right, or somebody lost a job. And that's where what we're trying to teach is, man, you can't go way up here when good times are, or something bad happens, because your family, your wife and kids are going to be looking at you, and you've got to be the guy that gets up every single day and leads. And so the bottom line is, that's what I want them to learn from this is, as a man, when you go out and lead your family, you're going to have to be like this all the time, because good things are going to happen with your family and bad things are, and it's up to you through God to get things or keep things on an even keel.
Yeah, that's good stuff. What's the best thing about coaching?
Being around kids. If I'm 54 years old, and if all I had to do was go teach or go be the athletic director or something like that, and never got to be around kids, I would not do it. They keep you young, and I just love them, and love being a part of their lives, and love trying to impact their lives.
So what's the worst thing about coaching?
I'm just not a very negative person. What people would say would be parents and things like that. Mm-hmm. But as you mature, you just quit giving people like that permission to affect your life and your program. You pick out, 5 or 6 people in your life, and including your faith, that are important to you. I listen to David Gadberry when he has a suggestion. I listen to my wife when she has a suggestion. But you pick a small group out that really knows you and understands you, and then just don't listen to the outside noise. Don't give people permission that don't know you to affect your life.
Man, that is some of the best advice. Let me ask you a question, though. I know that that's the way you perceive things, and I have a total respect for that. Right. And you may or may not want to answer this next question. It's not about you personally, but to me, one of the reasons I got involved in the sports side of coaching, so I'm not a sports coach, I'm a leadership coach. Right. I'm a pastor, but I have a leadership coaching company.
Amen.
So, and I did that literally because I saw some real negatives happening in the coaching world, and I thought, I can either battle this, or I can, as a pastor, I can either battle the negatives that are happening in the sports culture of today, or I can get into the life of the sports culture and influence it. Yeah. And so and the reason I did that is because I saw some real negatives, like the things that we are supposed to get out of sport.
Right.
It seems like in some cases, not all, but in some cases, we're losing
Yes.
that what we're supposed to be learning, what we're supposed to be gaining, and it's just getting out of hand.
Right.
Whether it's parents living vicariously through their kids, whether it's people just being caught up in the what I call the juvenile rat race now, that you've got to be involved in everything and you've got to go everywhere and you've got to do everything. And so and then I think there's a juxtaposition that's happened in the family. The hierarchical structure of the family has gotten flipped, where we're letting kids make decisions for life, and we're letting. So all this is happening. What would you say? Because I hear a lot of professional athletes talking about this, a lot of coaches talking about this now. What would you say to parents? Because you've been a parent with athletes.
Right.
So what would you say to parents about how to deal with this, and what's the perspective they should have about sport and sport culture for them personally?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do as a mom and dad is think about your core values yourself and what you want to send your kids out into this world knowing and understanding. And so, yeah, just like you and your family, I'm one of the most important thing is I wanted my two kids to understand the faith in God.
Yeah.
And not only understand it, but practice it. And so I would say first, you really need to find out what your core values are with your family, and then work towards that. As far as, what I would tell a parent would be, these times can be really special for kids. And it needs to be a time that's fun and enjoyable, and sports needs to be fun again.
Yeah.
And so I think that all these things, this rat race that we're taking our kids through with all this stuff, is really, like you said, hurting our families, but it's also hurting athletics.
Yeah.
Because it's creating an atmosphere of individuality, of what can I get, what's in it for me, and I'm going to go get this scholarship, when the things that me and you spend all of our time on with our players is team building. Because we know in this final outset that you're going to be a part of a team, and that team's going to be your family one day. That team's going to be a business that you either lead or a part of, and you've got to know how to work within the context of a team. Because, hey, me and you both know this, out in the real world, this I-me stuff isn't going to work when you're a part of this business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got to be a team player, and so think about those values, and think about the percentage of kids that are going to go out and get a Division I scholarship. My gosh, I think it's less than 1%. Yeah. And then understand that you're fixing to free kids up to go off to college, and then they're going to make decisions in their lives that hopefully they'll be based on your family values. And if all of us about with sports, it's going to be scary out there for those kids.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. That's good. That's good advice. It really is, and I think all of us would do good to hear it. Now, if you were saying to a coach, if you could say anything to a young coach that's starting out today, that is struggling with all this, because it is a different dynamic now, and families, people are very intense about everything. And I don't know if it's the advent of social media. Connor, who's my son-in-law, just a great young man. He had an observation the other day I thought was very good, profound. He said that we live in a time where people worship their own opinion, and it really is true, because social media has given us that where our opinion is more important than anything. I heard someone say something one time, and it kind of offended me the first time I heard it. But then afterwards I said, I'm going to start using that, because it's true. Your opinion is only valuable when it's asked for. I mean, really, because no one asked you to say it. It has no value except to you. And so I think because of the advent of social media, you have all of this talk and this parents not being able to handle. I think we've gotten to a place where we can't even handle the truth anymore. And I would encourage parents, when it comes to sports culture, to remember something. Your kids are watching you, and they're watching how you handle things. And when you're told, your kid gets to that junior high level, and so now it's not just about everybody playing. It's not just about it's about skill.
Yeah.
It's about talent. It's about ability. And it's amazing to me. And I see this not just happening on the sports field, it's also happening in the classroom.
Right.
When a teacher says to a parent, this is where your student is at.
Right.
Or a coach says to a parent, this is where it's almost like anymore, we can't accept any weakness in our kid. No, you're wrong.
Right.
And then it becomes a big issue. And I know you've experienced it before. What would you say to a coach or a young teacher or a lot of times those are the same thing?
Right.
How do they handle? I mean, what the advice you gave a while ago was really good about getting a circle around you. But what else would you say to them that would help them move on a trajectory that make them more successful?
And, I've been lucky enough to be in the business for 31 years, and so in and around a lot of people, and I do get to give advice to young coaches, and I'll give the same advice that I was given, which was, don't go to a staff just to go to a staff to get a title. Do research and find out who does things right, so that you can learn, and not only learn but be mentored through those times. And so, some of the people that have come up through our program have been amazing coaches, but they could have taken a varsity job at this school, and yet they took a junior high job at our school and worked their way up. But with that being said, they were surrounded by people that could mentor them and bring them along in a positive way. And so when coaches call me and ask me, should I go here? What should I do? What should I do? That's just the advice that I give over and over again is do your research on the head coach, do your research on the staff, and then you'll surround yourself with some people that can mentor you and grow you.
Yeah.
And Bob McQueen and Bill Barron and Raymond Rapp, man, they took me in and they taught me how to live, how to be a man before they ever taught me how to coach. And so just study it and look at it and ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think if you do that, you can put yourself in a quality situation.
What you just said leads me to another question. We've only just got a couple more minutes here because I know you have a meeting. You have some really good coaches on your team. I mean, these guys are formidable guys. Just being around them, listening to them. I love the dynamic of what you guys do. I don't know how it was when you grew up. Right. When I grew up and we were down at halftime, and we went into the locker room, here's what was going to happen. We were all going to sit in a circle, and the head coach was going to scream at us and tell us all the things we did wrong. And then there might be a little bit of time, and this was the same way for basketball too. There might be a little bit of time to, all right, we're going to try this play or try that play. But one thing I've loved about watching y'all, it's like going to school. Right. Like, I mean, you go into halftime, and I mean, it's a breakdown, and these coaches are doing this, and they're having these conversations, and they're talking technique, and they're teaching kids. It's just like it's an amazing approach to just training, teaching, developing, and not just the students, but each other. And I mean, you've got some really good guys on your team, but here's what I've noticed. A lot of them have been with you a long time. So now I'm going to kind of ask you a question based on, if business people that watch this, or entrepreneurs that watch this, or pastors that watch this, that they're trying to build a team that they, one of the problems that are happening in, I would say ministry, but it's really across the board in our culture today is, years ago, I don't know if it was just because we were more traditional and we just stuck with things, but there was like a brand loyalty. Yes. And if you drove a Ford, everybody in your family drove a Ford, and everybody in their family drove a Ford. And it was just like, and it was that same with the job. Guy go work at a factory and he'd worked there for 50 years. Right. And I always tell people in ministry, I see a lot of people in ministry just jumping around. And you're not going to build anything of consequence without longevity. It just doesn't happen. So how have you done that? Because you got guys, you've been there for 20 years. You got guys on your team that have been there 18 years. Yeah. Guys that have been there 14 years and 10 years. And
my offensive coordinator, 20 years.
20 years. Yeah. Right. So it's like, how are you doing that? Why don't they want to just go do their own thing? And not that they couldn't or they probably have had offers.
Yes, they have.
So what is it about the dynamic of your atmosphere in that way that's making them want to hold on to that?
Well, I think, like we talked about, we try to create an environment, with our players and things like that, but we try to, more than try, we create an environment with our coaching staff where we understand core values. We want them to know we love and care about their families, and that's going to come first and foremost in their lives, period. And then we respect that, make sure that we're great stewards with their time and so that they can go spend time with their families and raise their kids. And we may be working on a Saturday morning, and I'll tell you what, if they don't go to their kids' little soccer game or football game, me and him are going to have a problem because those daddies need to be there, and those kids are looking for those daddies. So, opening up doors for them to go be parents. And I think in a lot of programs, it's just you're going to be up there, you're going to be working from 7 in the morning to 10 at night, and we're going to get this. And people in our world think that's really cool. That's not really cool.
Yeah.
And then I think the other part of it is, you hire good people, you sit down at the beginning of the year, you lay out thoroughly the expectations you have, and then let them go work.
Yeah.
They're experts. They're going to go do what they love to do. Give them that opportunity to do that. And if they're doing what they love and they feel like they're valued and they feel like their families and that they're valued, then I think it's a kind of a cool, place to be.
And I'm not saying this because we're friends or because I'm trying to, flatter you, but I say this, and I don't say it lightly. You're one of the best empowerers of leaders on your team that I've ever seen. And what I mean by that is not just you say that and you tell them that and you create an atmosphere for it, but I watch you coach. Right. You let them coach. Right. And man, I know a lot of leaders that just can't do it. They just cannot do it. And it's hurting them. So that's very, very effective. Now, one of the things you're talking about there, and we're closed with this, and because integrity, in my mind, is always connected to honor.
Right.
And there are several things you do that are definitely that's how I would define them. That's honor. And I want to explain what they are, and then I'm going to ask you if they're intentional or not, and why you do them. Okay. So one thing is, after every game, without fail, win, lose, or draw, the families of the coaches are on the field when the game is over. They come down, they're hugging on their spouse, they're loving on them, they're, why is that done purposefully, and why do you do that?
We do that because, one, they love us, and they want to be down there with us, and they're passionate about their husbands. But two is it goes right back to, we want to be role models of families, and we want our kids to see what a healthy, we've all got our problems, David. Me, Holly, all of us. But we want to just be mentors where our kids can look and see, I want that someday. I want that in my life someday. I want my wife and kids involved in my life and with nothing to hide. You know what I mean? But just come down and be a part of it. And so it's a big part of it is just our wives love us so much. They want to be a part of it. But also we open that door. Right. There's that underlying deal so kids can see it.
Yeah, and I want to say this to ministry people that might be watching. There's a weirdness about some ministry people. You may not know this, but and I could see it happening in coaches' lives too. Because of what we do is so demanding, we have a tendency to compartmentalize. And what I see you guys doing is something it's a value that we have as a ministry, and that is bring your family along. Yes. And I see so many people, especially in ministry, and I don't know if it happens in coaching or not, but where, all right, I've got to have my time for my family, and I've got to have my job over here, and I've got to have this over there, and that over here. And then what they do is unwittingly they create a competition between their role in life and their family. Right. And what I see you doing is what we tell our people in ministry to do. You can't do everything together, but the important stuff, bring them along and let them experience it with you so that they see what you do. They may miss out on some things, but they're gaining things other people aren't getting as well. So see you do that. The second thing is, after every game, win, lose, or draw, there's a tradition. I don't know if everybody does this, but in Texas, the school songs are played. The teams go over to their bands. They with their fans.
Right.
They do it in every game, win, lose, or draw. The first thing I've even seen our team sometimes start running over to our own fans, and you go, hey, and we all turn and go back over, and we stop and watch them celebrate first, or watch them. And it's one thing when you've won and you do that, because it's not so hard to honor somebody else when you're the winner. But the other night when we didn't win and we still stood over there, it was one of the most. It was a beautiful moment, because I was watching the players, and they're hurting, and they're mad at themselves, and they're frustrated that they didn't win and things didn't go their way, but they're sitting there with, not sarcastically, but with honor, allowing the other team to have their moment. Yeah. So why do you do that? What is that? How'd you come up with that, and why did you?
Because it's the right thing to do. Yeah. And the right thing to do is the right thing to do, no matter the circumstance. And if things didn't turn out right for you, you don't automatically change your values, or you know what I'm saying. And so we're going to bring honor to this game and this sport. Yeah. And part of doing that is to go out and compete really hard for 48 minutes and try to win. Try to kick that guy's butt in front of you. Yeah. But when it's done, there's still lessons to be learned. Yeah. And part of that is honoring the people that you just competed with. Yeah.
Man, that's good stuff. And see, that's why we had Coach Blake Bryant on the day. We're talking about healthy leadership is leadership of integrity. And that's it in a nutshell. So, Coach, thanks for being with us today. I consider you a dear friend.
And I do too, David. Yeah. I admire what you do. And I hope people understand the things that you do for our program and for kids in our community, and specifically for our athletes. You're making a difference.
Well, I hope so. And it's a blessing to me. Yeah. I tell my wife all the time, I tell her, I don't know if I'm making a difference, but it's making a difference in me. I'm just enjoying it. There's just nothing like being in a football locker room.
Yes,
there's just nothing like it. I
sorry. See that in you all the time.
I'm like, hey, I'm at home, and that's how it feels. And it's just special. It's a brotherhood, and that's the way we feel about it. And so I want to encourage you. I hope that this podcast has helped you today. I know it has me. It's a great opportunity. There's a lot of little nuggets you can draw from this for your business or your entrepreneurial efforts or your ministry or your, if you're our coach. If it's added value to you, thank you so much for being a part of our leadership community. Make sure you subscribe so it'll come directly to you on iTunes or YouTube. I think on YouTube it's called Gadberry Leadership Coaching. On iTunes it's called Life in Leadership with David Gadberry, so you can subscribe to that. And listen, if it's truly adding value to you, share it with somebody else, because my goal, my fit in life is what I believe God's called me to do, is see the potential in people and help them reach it. And definitely do that by leading them to understand and know God. And so I want to encourage you to help me get that word out. Help me add value to someone else's life. And let me just say this. The way we lead is by serving. The way to serve is to find a way to add value to someone else and then do it. And I promise you this, I'll give you a guarantee. You're probably not going to get a guarantee on any other podcast. I'll give you a guarantee on this podcast. If you add value to others, the greater value will be added to you every single time. So thanks so much for being a part of the podcast today. God bless you. We love you. Have a great day.